In this course, I will talk about the clean architecture with the .NET Core Web APIs, especially with the microservices architecture. If you are creating the monolithic architecture, this should still help with the minimal changes, but primarily focusing on the microservices architecture. Um, if you are actually planning to create or creating the greenfield project for your new requirement with a microservice architecture, if you are wondering how the project structure should look like and what are the folders should look like and how to adapt the different UI layer structure. So this course will be useful, and I will try to explain how to create those folder structure as part of this clean architecture. So this will also allow developer to focus on their strong technology area simultaneously. That's called the responsibility segregation, because the developers has their own technology stack. So this clean architecture will allow developer to work on their strong technology area. So in this course, I will cover these topics: what the clean architecture is, and a little bit background on the history or the background of the clean architecture, the benefits, big picture, and the layer structure, and the tests. What are the different tests we can write for each layer, and the detailed view of the clean architecture, the UI project structure and the folder structure and the components used, same as API project structure, components, folder structure created, core project. So that's the one of the primary application core we will be talking about, focusing more on the core project, infrastructure project. And if you have the shared components, where those shared components will fit in the clean architecture, and the actual solution structure will be covered part of the this course. And I will also talk about the solid principle at the end, but not in details how those solid principles will fit in the clean architecture. So those are the kind of things will be discussed in this course. Let's begin with the actual what is actually the clean architecture is. The clean architecture is the one which actually follow the dependency inversion principle, also the domain driven design principles. So that is called the clean architecture. So with the clean architecture, the domain and the application or the API layers are at the center of the application, center of the design. This is the application that is called core of the system. So let me give some background before moving into the actual goals. So this clean architecture, there are a lot of blogs, a lot of articles on the clean architecture. So this is the Robert C. Martin, also called Uncle Bob. His article talks about the initial version of the clean architecture. So there are different forms of this clean architecture. So it's not new. So initially, it started from hexagonal architecture, and then onion architecture, and then clean architecture. So there are different authors written their opinion on this clean architecture. So this is the hexagonal architecture pattern. Looks like. I will not go in more details on these, but just giving the history on different authors written various articles on the clean architecture, how this clean architecture evolved from the traditional layered architecture. So Jeffrey talks about the onion architecture, how that is evolved from the traditional layered architecture. So in the traditional layered architecture, he points the drawbacks of the traditional layer architecture. In the traditional layer architecture, you will see the UI component, UI project, business logic component, and the data access project. And these are all integrated with the infrastructure project. So UI will depend on the business logic project depends on the data access project, and all three depends on the infrastructure project. So this actually has the tightly coupled and with the each layer. So to avoid that, he actually proposed the onion architecture. In the onion architecture, so this is the diagram how it look like in the onion architecture. You will see the external components. Actually, infrastructure is calling the external components like database, file system, or the external web services. And then the outer circle has the user interface, the UI application, the test cases, and the infrastructure. And the center of the onion contains the application core with the domain models and domain services, application services. So we can discuss how this is formed into the clean architecture. So basically the origin of the clean architecture is from the onion architecture because it follows the onion view. And there are Microsoft MSDN article on the clean architecture. So it also talks about same as the um, Jeffrey's article. So how the layers and the big picture should look like, the test components. So primarily I'm following the MSDN article. And also there are good videos on the clean architecture from Steve Smith, Taylor, Jason Taylor. So we can follow these. I have followed these references to come up with the clean architecture, which I'm going to explain here. So the goal here is to make sure that this clean architecture is scalable, flexible, and testable and maintainability. So any application you create, these are the primary goals. Make sure that it is allow adding more and more features, and it is more flexible in terms of plug in, plug out. So those are the kind of things. Today, if I'm using the SQL Server, in the future, if I'm going for the NoSQL with the Cosmos DB, so those are the kind of flexibilities the system should allow. At the same time, should also allow test-driven application because we don't want to spend a lot of money for the human manual resource testing. Rather, you should be automating all your software using the unit test cases or integration of the functional test cases. So it should be testable. So the clean architecture goal is it is testable and also maintainable. So we don't want to write the source code for a couple of years and then refactor the whole code. So it should be able to survive for years. So that's the main goal of the clean architecture. So this is how the clean architecture will look like with the onion view. You will have the UI project at the left side and the infrastructure project at the right side. And in the center, we have the application core. So I have the core project, I have the API projects, which is called the application core. And I will talk about the details, how these application core, the components of the application core and the classes and project structure will look like in the subsequent slides. Let's take a look at the benefits, the underlying benefits of the clean architecture. The first one is the independent of the framework. So when I say independent of the framework, this clean architecture should not depend on any technology or any framework. So you have the .NET Core, it will work for the .NET Core, it will work for the Java, Python, Node, any technology you pick, the clean architecture should be applied to any of those technologies. And it is easy to test. As I mentioned, it is a testable because the core has no dependency on any of the components. That means you can easily go with the unit test cases. For example, the infrastructure layer, you may want to do the integration test cases. At the application API level, we can do the functional testing. And at the UI level, we can actually do the functional testing with the Selenium. So it allows adding test cases with the current clean architecture. Independent of UI, So UI can change every 3 years, 4 years. You see the technology stack is getting changed for the UI. So I started with the ASP, then moved into the ASP.NET, and then ASP.NET Core, then Angular, and now React.js. Now we can expect that Blazor is also coming in the future. So there is nothing like going for the long term. So we should make sure that when we are creating the software, it should actually support the various UI components. And the next one is independent of the database. So the database should, like your architecture should not depend on one single database. So you could change this SQL Server database to the Cosmos DB. So today, if you are using the Oracle, it can change it to the PostgreSQL or the Graph. So there are different SQL databases. So this architecture, the clean architecture, will not be depending on a single database. Independent of anything external, it's not necessarily that you will stick with your own service, right? So you have to go with external services, and your architecture should support for calling those external web services. Like, you might call the SendGrid APIs, SQLite APIs, or the database calls. All those external, it should be independent of anything external. And also the last one is the loosely coupled architecture always allows the benefits, the goals we talked about in the previous slides. Let's take a look at the big picture of the core architecture. In this core architecture, I have three different parts. One is the client and the server and the external dependencies. Client, your application will be accessible from mobile device, desktop, or the tablet. And your application, this is a UI component with the React.js, Angular, or MVC, or ASP.NET MVC, different technology stack. And then you have the centric, which is the application core. And then the right side, you have the infrastructure. Let's take a look at what each component and the dependency between each components. So the business logic and the application model at the center of the application. So your application core will have the business logic and the application models. So this application, the core, will not have a dependency on the infrastructure. Rather, infrastructure will have the dependency on the application core. So that's the difference between the layered architecture and the onion view. And this this onion view, the application core is sitting in the center and have no dependency, and the infrastructure project will have the dependency on this core. So for example, infrastructure and implementation details depend on the application core. So the actual implementations are in the infrastructure, and those interfaces or the abstractions are defined inside the core itself. And the core will not have any dependencies or minimal dependency. Only the shared NuGet packages can have the dependency, but your infrastructure project will have a dependency on the core. Your API project will also have the dependency on the core. That's the onion view, or the clean architecture principle. So all the dependencies flow inwards. In the sense, your API can have a dependency on the core. Infrastructure can have the dependency on the core. That's the inwards flow. And API and infrastructure depending on the application core itself. So this is the big picture of the clean architecture should look like. Now let's take a look at what are the different layers and how these layers supports the different test capabilities. So your user interface can be in a React. You can use the Jest, or you can use the functional testing with the Selenium. That's the front end part. So I'll be focusing more on the backend in this course. Now in the API project, so this is a separate project. I will always keep my UI project in a separate Git repo, so that the developers, the expert manage that Git repo and the source code separately as compared to the backend. So because I have a front end team and the backend team, and the front end team taking care of the React or the Angular projects, and the backend team, all these microservice team taking care of the backend stuff. So I will segregate this in the front end and the back end. And as I mentioned, the front end can be, we can have the Selenium test cases on the front end side for actually validating those business requirements. That's called the functional testing. And you can also validate your API endpoints. That's the functional testing can be applied at the API level by using the API automation test cases. And the next one is the core. Core will not have any dependency on any of these projects. So this is easily adapts the unit test cases. So you can write the unit test cases at the core level. And finally, the infrastructure will have the integration test cases, because you want to test your database working or your external services working. If I'm calling the SendGrid APIs, will my SendGrid service working as expected? If I'm calling for any of the other external web services from the infrastructure, make sure that those endpoints are working as expected. So you will be performing the integration test cases, and these integration test cases will be automated in the Azure DevOps pipeline. This is about the layers and the test cases. Now moving on to the detailed view. So each project, I have laid down the UI project calling to the API. API has the reference of the .NET, the core project, and the infrastructure project will also have the reference of the core project. Now let's see what are the various components each layer contains. So the UI, let's say if I have created my UI using the React.js, I have the Webpack configuration, and then RxJS for managing the state, and the routing for application routing, the URL routing, all that will be configured in the routing. Redux for the state management, TypeScript for make sure that strictly following the type notations, and the components and the container part for managing the hierarchy of my layout and all the external npm packages installed on the UI projects, props and states, and test cases with the Jest. So these are the high level components will be used in the React.js. If you are building the Angular, there will be different technology stack. If you are using the ASP.NET MVC, that will be different technology stack. Back to API, you will have the entry point with the program.cs, startup.cs, where you will configure all your configurations and the dependency injection and so on. And you will also have to make sure that your APIs are properly configured with the routing and following the best practice. So each component here listed is a separate course. You need to understand in details what are the different configurations in startup.cs and program.cs. Same thing, what are the best practices while doing the API routing, and how do you do the different ways of doing the API versioning, and make sure that which one suits for you. So picking the right one is the good. Make sure that we are not messing up the API versioning, and how do you use the out of the box ASP.NET MVC dependency injection, and model validation, best practices on the model validation, whether you will be using the data annotations or something else. Also making sure that your exceptions are handled properly and centralized, and the logging, it's very important, logging the information in the API level so that it will help you to debug when there is an issue in the production, and how to configure the various middleware in the ASP.NET Core 5. Also the configuring the Swagger, make sure that you have enough documentation. So this is the guide for the new developers when onboarded into the API. If they have a proper documentation in the Swagger, we'll be able to support immediately to the project. Authentication, if your API is applied the security. So you might want to use the authentication, authorization, also implement the identity at the API level to support the authentication and authorization. If you are planning to cache something at the API level, after applying your all the business logic, if you want to cache it so that improve the performance of the API endpoint, so you will be having the caching. Now the core components. So this is the actual application core, contains your all the interfaces, no implementation. So implementation will be in the infrastructure project. And then entities, these are the domain entities and exceptions, value objects, domain services. So when I say the domain services, these are the some of the business logic and aggregates. If you are using the CQRS patterns like events, handlers, specifications, so those are the part of the things comes under the core part of a core project. So now I have UI project in a separate Git repo and the backend code, the microservice code with these three projects: API project, core project, and infrastructure project. And then my infrastructure will have the repositories, repository pattern, and then entity framework, DB context. And in case if you are caching at the repository level, so you can also have the caching here. And if you are having the API, other microservices, calling the other microservices, that's the API client. And then if you are talking any of the external file systems, like you have a blob or any other file systems, that will come here. And all your additional interfaces, these interfaces are different than this interface. Also email or SMS sending, other web services, and these are the kind of things will be implemented in the infrastructure. Now moving to the UI project. As I mentioned, UI project, you will have the Babel, Webpack, scalable project structure. Make sure that you create your project structure to scale that, adapt, make sure that it expandable, and you will have the JSX syntax following the RxJS for promising and the routing, the Redux for the state, TypeScript strictly following your types, and managing the higher order components, containers, using the containers, props, and states to manage the lifecycle in the React.js, forms and handling events with the validations, Bootstrap for making sure that your application is completely responsive UI, and adding the test cases at the React level using the just package, or using these developer tools like NPM and the runtime tools, Node.js, and the JavaScript part of it. And you will have separate CI/CD, and it's the same structure, so it's scalable to support multiple requirements, having the logos and the routing, Redux, and Material UI. And you will also configure your UI application to support the internationalization. So this is the React.js architecture. And then during the code walkthrough, we'll explain the details of the React.js. And then coming to the API project, this will have the dependency injection. All your dependency injections used in the backend microservice will be configured in the dependency injection. So there will be a separate file. Don't mix with the program or the CS startup.cs. Otherwise, the startup.cs will be more contains a lot of code. So make sure that is organized properly in the startup.cs. So you can create separate files. I create a dependency injection separate file, all the middleware separate files, API routing in case if you are doing the routing V1, and then you will also have the V2 here. So the same controller copy pastes. So that will be the versioning. So I will explain how to do the different ways of routing and when to use which routing mechanism. And you will also wanted to make sure that the input object coming from the UI to the API is validated properly before dig into the infrastructure layer. Configuring the exception handling is very, very important. Make sure that you are logging in one place and configuring correctly, and writing the proper logging either information or the error or the debugging or tracing. That's all important for the API level. And if you are using any caching, you will do the cache at the API level, Swagger configuration. So authentication, authorization, security components, these are all comes under the API project. And I will walk you through all the project structure with debugging one endpoint end to end from API to all the way to infrastructure. Now, the next one is the core project. This is the heart of the your API itself. It is also called the application core. Will have the business logic. Will have the common tools, utilities like helper methods, some of the static extensions, and also have the domain models. This will contain the aggregators, entities. So either I think I call it as a model instead of entities here, and then in the database level I call the database entities. At the domain level I call it the models. And you can have the request response objects, either it in the API or it in the core. So I keep in the core so that it is shared between the API and the infrastructure also. Sometimes these request response classes will bleed into the infrastructure also. So I kept it in the core level. But if you are planning to use mappers to migrate into mappers to map into the DTO objects, so that's the another way of keeping these request response in the API instead of in the core. So if you are following the CQRS pattern, so you will have commands and events. So in my project, I haven't followed the CQRS to make it more simple, but there is no mandatory to follow the CQRS pattern. And also we might still need some of the DTOs for transferring the objects from one layer to the other layer. Now, this will contain all the interfaces. For the data access, your external web services, or the actual application core services, notification services, HTTP client in case if you are calling the different microservice from this service, so you have to instantiate the client for that. So those are the kind of things will live in the core. So no dependencies or minimal dependencies. So when I say no minimal dependency, that means only the shared projects. I will have separate slides on the shared NuGet packages. So only shared NuGet packages will have the dependency on the core, nothing more than that. So coming to the infrastructure layer, infrastructure project will have the actual implementation of the interfaces defined inside the core. So in the core, you mentioned all these interfaces, like data access should have these interfaces. My email service will have these interfaces. Notification service will have these interfaces. The actual implementation happened in the core project, infrastructure project. And this infrastructure project will also have the data models, are also called the data entities. In entity framework 5, so you will have the entity framework entities and the external service models. And you can also have the mappers. These mappers will map from the data entities into the DTOs or the domain models. So you will definitely need the mappers, and you can use the auto mapper in the infrastructure project. And then no business logic here. So it contains all the repositories, and it also contains the external services and all the dependencies on out of proc resources. Shared NuGet packages. So you might still need some NuGet packages if you are actually creating a project where you need some of the shared components like base entities, base domain events, or the base specifications. So these are all will go into the shared NuGet package. So create the NuGet package and shared with multiple microservices. So in the core project, you might need this shared package, shared NuGet package reference. So this contains the common exceptions, common interfaces, so common authentication, and the dependency injection and the logging. These are the kind of things will go into the shared NuGet packages. Now the solution structure here is the solution structure look like API folder contains the microservice code here. This is my API folder. So I have the project name here. If I'm building the service here, the service name, and then we'll have two folders in it. One is the core. Core is the application core, and the second one is the uh, test project. So I don't have the UI project in this NuGet repo. NuGet package is placed in the separate Git repo to manage the UI experts. So I don't mix with the two teams in the same Git repo. So this is only for the backend stuff. So the core will have the API and will have the architecture project, so that you will actually validating your architecture and the layers. And you can also have the RM templates folder here to spin up the Azure resources. And then you will have the actual application core and the infrastructure. And then all your test cases. So I've created the API test. Each project will have a separate test project. So within API, you can have integration unit and functional testing. Same goes for other folders also. The technologies is used here, for example, the backend, .NET Core, Swashbuckle, Scooter, the Scooter for, I think, I forgot the actual purpose of the Scooter. So that's the reference. I can explain more in details. Yeah, I think this is used for the scanning, declaring the dependency injection purpose, and Swashbuckle for Swagger configuration. So I also use the Fluent validation with Auto Mapper for mapping the objects. .NET Core, the reference of the .NET Core, and the React and Redux references. And NSwag for, this is a really good tool for UI, generating the JSON payload from the API for your Open API, and also the identity in case if you are using the authentication with the identity server. So this is also the reference for, and automated testing with these tools, like use the XUnit with the mock auto fixture and the Fluent assertion. So in this clean architecture, I have used these high level technology stacks. So there is a other points not listed here, but these are the high level technology stack used in the clean architecture. This address the solid principles. We talk about the separation of concerns, single responsibilities, don't repeat yourself, and dependency inversion principles. If I have to explain, I will not explain more in details of these principles. As I mentioned, these are the lengthy topics, so we have to give with the example to understand the solid principles. So I'll just go through very high level. Separation of concerns, it's very important that you separate your code base with the classes, methods, projects, and organize. At least you take care of these three, like data access layer should be in one project, business logic and domain model should be in one project, and user interface should be separate project. So make sure that we are not mixing these, at least for addressing the separation of concern principle. And the single responsibility principle, make sure that you will change your class for one reason. If you are changing a class for the same class for two reasons, that means you are not following the single responsibility principle. So make sure that you will segregate separation, follow the separation of concerns principle to support the single responsibility. Don't repeat yourself. Make sure that your code is not repetitive. If you are building multiple microservices and the same, as I mentioned, the shared NuGet packages, that's where the don't repeat yourself comes. If something need to be repeated again and again, that will go into the shared NuGet packages and give a reference in the core project so that you will avoid repetitive code. So refactor repetitive code into the functions, group your functions into the classes, and classes in the folders and the namespaces to support the responsibility. And you can also create the projects, separate projects. And this is finally the dependency inversion principle. So the dependency inversion principles in the .NET Core, you will be configuring the every entry point labels, which is in the startup.cs, and then you will also be using explicit dependency principles, that is like at the controller level or at the class level. You are actually class constructor, you will be passing all the required dependencies, that is explicit dependency principles. So you will be strictly following the dependency inversion principles in the clean architecture. And in the next video, I will walk through the source code with the folder structure and how these folder structure contains the different classes and the purpose of those classes. Thank you.